That's crazy. I mean, they're gonna fix that, right?
Well, here's the thing. I bought $500 in extra insurance because I had moved in two phases, so I had to pay the church twice. So $500 plus the insurance, and I made a claim. I think they really didn't buy a policy, so it's ongoing. But
like this
they sent basically a retired guy who's
over there on top
really
of the
you know, woodworker to do some repairs, and he did a really amateur job. You know, just even minor things. I wish I'd just fixed it myself because he messed it up, like putting dents with a hammer instead of using a nail set, you know, to just amateur stuff, you know. And so they broke the pedal assembly off the grand piano, and it's there's two wooden dowels that hold the wooden part on. So I told him, I said, you need a woodworking guy to do the wood part, you know, to drill the dowels out, put new dowels. That's fixable. It's just a broken off dowel, but it's also the pedal assembly attaches. It's a mechanical thing. They broke that off too. So you need a piano guy to do that. So they send a sheetrock guy. I'm like, no, you seem like a nice guy, but you're not touching that. They were like, well, you wouldn't let him just screw it on. I'm like, no, because I don't know if you attach the pedal assembly and then screw it on the other way around. It could be, you know, there's no point in attaching it. You're not fixing the mechanical part. So at that point, things just broke down. So yeah, they broke a lot of stuff. College hunks moving, don't use them. They didn't wrap anything. They wrapped about half the furniture, but all the stuff that got broken was the stuff they didn't wrap mostly. They broke some chandeliers and just... Oh, and then the part I really loved is when they got mad when I said, no, I'm not going to let a sheetrock guy touch my piano, just the same as I wouldn't let, you know, like, the dog catcher do brake surgery on me. They got mad and they were like antiques and crystal chandelier. I'm like, don't put things in quotation marks. I mean, you're just going from bad to worse. So yeah, it'll escalate now probably. I just want my stuff fixed. But yeah, I thought, you know, you think buying the insurance if you actually buy the extra policy, because there's a minimum you're covered by state law, but it's a really minimal amount. And they're trying to make a claim on that, and which tells me they didn't actually buy policies, which is insurance fraud. So we'll see. All right, so we're getting ready to do my favorite chapter on impaired driving, and I will tell you that it's my favorite chapter for a couple of good reasons. One is a personal reason. I've been hit 3 times by impaired drivers. Each time I was pretty bad danger. The first time I was in a head-on collision. A guy ran a red light and hit me head-on and totaled my car and messed up my face. But mostly those were surface injuries. You know, I was sore for about a month. Luckily, I was wearing my seatbelt and had airbags. But when airbags popped up, they gave me some free dermabrasion on my face and broke my front tooth off. My tooth actually punctured my lip, so there's a lot of blood. It was mostly cuts and bruises, so felt pretty lucky to walk away from a head-on collision alive, honestly. Second wreck, the driver who hit me was impaired by marijuana. First guy was alcohol, and second guy did not maintain his lane. He did not see me come up alongside him. And one of the things we know about people impaired by marijuana is that they tend to hyper-focus, meaning they're doing a pretty good job looking at what's right in front of them, but that means they're probably missing what's going on in their peripheral vision. So as he merged over on me, he ran me out of my lane, and then he told me he was calling for help, and he actually just called his mom. There was a little delay in getting medical treatment. Anyway, from that wreck, I had a miscarriage. And
oh my God.
With the third wreck, you know how at 5 o'clock traffic, there are a lot of people on the exit ramp on the freeway coming off the freeway. There's a long line of vehicles stopped, and this lady was, I honestly don't know what she was on, but she was incredibly high. She's probably the highest person I've ever seen, and I've worked at rehab. Believe me, I've seen some high people. I've worked for drug court too. Oh goodness. I don't know what this lady was on, but she was flying high. And she just failed to her brain did not process that all those cars were stopped, that those were brake lights. And so she came off the freeway probably doing about 60 or 70 and ran into the lady behind me, pushed her into me. And from that wreck, I have 2 herniated discs in my back, and it's hurting a lot, like right now. So if I'm squirming around a lot, that's why I can't find a comfortable position. So I apologize if I'm moving too much, but I'm in pain most of the time from that. And So this chapter is important to all of us because any one of us could be that person who's injured and could have those long-lasting effects. But the other reason I really like this chapter is something that is of importance to you, and that is that I find this is the chapter that has the most information in it that you guys may not already know. And I never like to see people get in trouble when they think they're following the law and then they find out the hard way that they're not, and they get arrested, and it's a big mess, it's expensive. So I think that there's at least one really important thing in here that you guys probably aren't aware of that about Georgia's DUI law. So hopefully this chapter will clarify all that for us. Okay. There's good stuff in this chapter.
Okay.
I also teach the DUI class, so there's using that class that are not included in this that I think are also things that most people don't know that are pretty critical for all of us to know. Let's see. So impaired driving, again, could be anything that makes us not 100% physically or mentally. So, of course, that could be drugs, street drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be prescription drugs, it could be over-the-counter drugs. So, like, what kind of thing could I get over the counter, like at Walgreens, that would make me impaired?
NyQuil.
Oh, yeah. NyQuil or sleep aids, things like that. Benadryl, something to make you sleepy. What about, somebody who, again, we talked about the mental and physical things, so it could be somebody who's not taking care of their vision, or it could be a hearing impairment, it could be an age impairment, it could be someone impaired by a strong emotion. What's a strong emotion that would keep me from being able to focus on safe driving?
Sadness.
Yes. So bereavement, maybe? Anger, big time. Stress, anger, yes. Had a young man in my class who's only 18, and he told me his mother called him to tell him that his grandpa had passed away. She told him that while he was driving, and he had a crash.
Wow.
And luckily he wasn't injured, but that's just really not a great idea. We don't give people bad news while they're driving. So yeah, it's all of those. So this is what I would copy down, the kinds of impairment. They kind of encapsulated all there. So it's alcohol, it's drugs, it's mental and physical things that could be going on, and it's drowsy driving. So all of those are impairment. There's very little anybody could say in any of my classes that could make me angry, but when people say that weed doesn't make them impaired, that makes me angry. I know it shouldn't, but it does, because it's just wishful thinking. Obviously, anything that gets us high is going to cause an impairment. At the very least, the rate of speed at which our brain processes information is going to slow down, and obviously, if we're processing things at a slower rate of speed, then our reaction time is tied to that. So that's what we just right there. So this is definitely a partial list of the kinds of impairments that drugs or alcohol can cause. But like I said, the biggest thing is our brain just doesn't work as fast. And that is huge because it doesn't, I think a lot of times, again, from wishful thinking, people like to say, oh, I wasn't drunk, I was just buzzed, or I felt fine. And the problem with that is you don't have to be all the way drunk to be impaired, right? That's two separate impairments, the whole spectrum. Drunk is just this end of it, this extreme end of it, right? But the whole spectrum is describing someone who's not 100%, and that is dangerous. So if you put it into this scenario, it's easier to understand. How many times have you been, well, raise your hand if you've ever been driving and somebody starts straying in your lane because they're texting and driving? Like every time you drive? So how much time did you have to respond to that person to keep them from hitting you?
Oh, just a couple seconds.
If you're lucky, yeah, like they're coming right over onto you. So
I was actually rear-ended by someone texting. It was really bad. They were going about 50 when I was stopped. Luckily, I was not injured. Sadly, my Mustang was totaled. And you won't believe what she said to me when I had gotten out of my car to check if she was okay. Let me finish this text. That's what she
You
said.
should have recorded that. You should have recorded that. You should have recorded that.
I gotta leave after that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my sister got rear-ended by somebody texting, and she saw the girl texting in her rearview mirror, and she's like, I know she's gonna hit me. I know she's gonna hit me. She did, and the girl got out of her car and said, no, I'm gonna be late for work.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's the least of your
Can you not
words.
hear me with your
Right?
headphones on?
Oh,
Not for real. What'd you
goodness.
say?
Well, I'm sorry about your mistake. Sure, that was your
I said
baby.
something earlier.
Oh, what'd you say?
Okay.
I don't know. I was talking about what she said.
you got- you
I
got
said
the new
something
one.
else.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you know, the property damage is the least of it, though. You know, if you're physically injured, sometimes those things never heal, and that's a big deal if it's somebody through a lot of trauma. My back's never going to be the same, I can say that. I can't even stand in line at the store. You know how embarrassing that is? You know,
Did those experiences encourage you to start teaching and leading these kind of classes?
no, I mean, it helps me enjoy teaching them more, for sure, but I taught in public school, and I really enjoyed the kids, but the parents, not so much.
Yep.
And I actually had a couple of friends that were teaching these classes, and so my one friend who's a counselor said, maybe you would enjoy teaching this, and I went and sat in on his class, and I said, yeah, I think I would like this, and so I just made that transition to teaching adults. Plus I could tell raunchier jokes and get away with it. I don't have to play G-rated movies anymore either. So that's
How many classes can you do a week? How many of these you can do a week?
I do, let's see, 3 DUI classes. That's the 20-hour class a month. It's usually 2 weekends, every other weekend, and then I do a middle of the week one for people who work on weekends. And then I do this class about 5 times a month. So typically, the Saturdays that I don't teach, so 2 weekends a month. The Saturdays I don't teach the DUI class, I do this, and then I do the middle of the week class a couple of times, 2 or 3 times a month. So yeah, usually about 5 DUI class, 5 of these classes. But I'm certified to teach probably about 10 or 12 different classes. I've done the I really enjoy doing the men's domestic violence group. You wouldn't think you would enjoy that, but it was rewarding. Because it's a real challenge to kind of, you know, change the way people think about, you know, having those conflict resolution skills. I never thought I would laugh in that class, but we did. We didn't laugh at domestic violence, obviously, but we laughed at other stuff a lot. It lightens the mood because it can get pretty heavy in there, obviously. At one time I walked into the room, and this is a really tiny room, and all these, I hate to say it, but smelly guys in there, because a lot of them just came off work. It's a little close in there for sweaty people. And one guy raised his hand like this the minute I came in the room. I said, what's going on? He's like, can he leave? Why? He said, and the guy said, because I smell like HIT. And I was like, what?
Wow.
I know. I was just like, well, that's good. He said, I shovel that for a living, and I didn't get my change. And I said, well, you know what? If you can stand it, we can stand it. But you can leave if you want to. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, we had some bizarre statements in there. But yeah, and people look down on you if you teach that class. That's the weird thing. Like when you go to conferences and stuff, and people find out you work with the offenders, because most of the people work on the victim side, and they're like, "Oh, you teach that?" And I'm like, "Well, somebody has to, you know. I mean, otherwise it keeps happening, right?" So it was. That's the hardest license to get. That and the sex offender training, which I don't want to do. I don't want that in my head. So. Yeah, I had one guy that was a sex offender in one of my classes, and he wanted to know if I wanted him to walk me to my car.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, but I felt like saying that would not make me feel better. You're the person I'm looking out for. But no, thank you. I have a 38. I'll be fine. Okay, you go and go. Holy cow. Got to have a sense of humor, right? Alright, So slowed reaction time, yeah, because our brain's going to slow down. And that's what I was getting at with the person texting and driving. When they come over on us, we might have only a couple of seconds to react. But here's the thing. If we're under the influence of anything, we have that very small window of opportunity to respond to things like that happen in traffic. So it could be, whether it's a mistake someone else has made or, something that we just failed to perceive in time, like the lady who hit me that ran the red light, or the person that hit you that was texting that didn't notice you were stopped till it was too late. They're just not processing things quickly enough. So it does come down to fractions of seconds that make a difference. So if our brain slows down at all, that little window of opportunity just closed. So we have a reaction time. It's just not fast enough to do us any good. And that just makes us an exponentially more dangerous driver the minute our brain slows down at all. We need that quick reaction time to be a good driver. So when people use the term drunk driving, that's why that phrase is kind of a really bad one to use, simply because it implies that you have to be at that extreme end of the spectrum to be more dangerous, and you don't. You just have to be not 100%. So the other thing most people don't know is that we actually have two kinds of impairment. We have what's going on in our brain, and then we have the kind of impairment that affects the rest of our body. So there's the mental impairment, physical impairment, and they don't match. Mental impairment always happens first. And this is my favorite fact. I'll give you this one for free. You don't even have to pay the $360 for the other class. Everybody on this whole planet is born with low mental tolerance. Everybody on this planet dies with low mental tolerance. No matter how much the drinks you use, you can't get high mental tolerance. So all that means is, no matter what, the minute we start using or drinking, pretty early on, we are affected mentally, and that is really the only thing that matters, because driving is much more a mental test than a physical test. So once we have friends that may have that really high physical tolerance, like we can drink all night and they still only drunk, or that's misleading, because it's making them think that they're not impaired because they're using their body to gauge their impairment. What they're not considering is that their brain has already been impaired probably for hours. So mental impairment kicks in maybe after half a drink, somewhere around like a 0.03 blood alcohol level, which is about half a drink for somebody my size. And we don't really care about anything else, because once we're affected mentally, that's the part that matters. This is gone, and we're more dangerous. So all those extremes and talking about drunk driving and being way at this end of the spectrum, all that doesn't matter. It's just, is your brain 100%? The answer is no. So this partial list is talking about the slower reaction time that's tied to our brain just working more slowly. We're definitely more likely to take risks. We're just not kind of in that safety mode. Once we start using a substance, we're not safety oriented, and we are, we kind of feel 10 feet tall and bulletproof, right? We just are more likely to take chances, or, and our ability to gauge like how far away someone is or how fast they're coming toward us is also skewed. So like we're getting ready to pull out the way we see traffic coming toward us, our perception of how far away they are and how fast they're going is off. We think they're moving more slowly than they actually are.
Yo, appreciate that, SG Jimmy. I appreciate you.
Impaired vision, definitely. We have poor eye control. We have poor judgment, poor coordination. Ever realized how clumsy you feel when you're tired? You lose your fine motor skills. You'll see people that have a hard time getting their key in the keyhole, or I call it muppet hands. You just lose those fine motor skills. You get really clumsy, and you stumble, things like that. So years ago, my sister used to work for the police department. She was a 911 dispatcher, and God, it was a stressful job. And not only, think about it, if you mess up, somebody dies or gets hurt. That's a lot of stress to carry around, and it's a 12-hour shift, so it's physically grueling and mentally taxing.
Oh my God, are you serious?
She went to get something to drink out of her refrigerator, and she failed to notice.
Oh my God.
So she closed the door and went to bed.
Oh no.
Well, I wouldn't tell you this about a bad ending, because I like endings, but so she got up the next morning, she opened the door, and the cat pops out of the fridge like, "Where were you? I was so cold." The cat was okay, thank goodness. But she was horrified, and I was feeling bad for the cat too. But my bigger concern was, oh my goodness, if she didn't notice something,
Can I what?
There was a cat right in front of her, crawling into her fridge. What was she missing when she was driving home? So that's a bigger concern. And honestly, it was really bad when she put that job. Oh gosh, if she was that unaware, that was dangerous for driving home like that. So. poor judgment, poor coordination. You ever tried to make your brain work when you're tired? Anybody ever been up studying and you realize you've read that same paragraph about 10 times and it's just not sinking in anymore? It's like your brain went to bed without you, isn't it? So that just tells you, a lot of people think that they can just try harder and overcome impairment, but you just can't. You don't have that kind of control over your brain. So let me ask you your opinion on this. Do you think there's any way these numbers are correct?
Yep.
And I'm not saying the people in this class didn't make an effort to get you some accurate stats. It's that why might we not really know how many accidents are actually caused by alcohol or drugs?
People be driving off afterward.
Sometimes people do take off. Absolutely. What else?
Well, sometimes these things are happening just like the gentleman they're taking off, but they're just not caught. They don't necessarily take off. We've seen them on the road. Like, what's this guy doing? The driving is just off enough. It's not. It's something funky. It's like, okay, let me get away from the or whatever it is. And you know, something's off. Don't know what.
Yeah. Or how about, here's the thing, in order for something to be recorded as a DUI crash, what has to happen? The police officer has to be aware that that person's impaired. Now, what could go wrong with that? It's all down to that person's perception or whether they feel like testing them and proving it. And a lot could go wrong there too, couldn't it? So I will tell you that in my experience, in my 3 DUI crashes, the first one, the officer I think did a fantastic job. He did by the book. He really made an effort. He tried to breathalyze the guy. The guy refused the breathalyzer. He did a field sobriety test and the guy failed it, so he arrested him and took him to jail. So he did everything he could possibly do to try to get a conviction on that. But the guy hired the most expensive DUI attorney in Atlanta, and he got the charge dismissed. So he ended up just getting
Europe servers. Let me see.
So again, that wreck then did not get recorded as a DUI crash. I think. He definitely didn't end up getting having the charge stick. So the second crash, the one where the guy was impaired by marijuana, I begged the officer to test him. He smelled really strongly. He and his friend both smelled really strongly like marijuana, and they were, all giggly like people are when they're high. So we're sitting in the store, and while laughing as I'm sitting over there injured. You just ran into a pregnant lady and injured her, and you're laughing. That's inappropriate. You're clearly not 100% mentally. And I begged her to test him.
I have a blunt roll in the room if you want.
And her response was,
what?
People
I have a
respond
blunt
to
roll.
stress
It's not
differently.
small.
Well, he's not stressed. He's laughing. I'm the one that's stressed. So if the officer refuses to test them, then they don't.
I'm about to play on Europe servers.
Charged with DUI.
The prize
They get
for Europe is $3 grand.
They get a traffic
Not
ticket to get sent on their way, and that's what happened. Third case scenario, same thing. Begged the officer to test the lady. She clearly was high, and the officer said, "Oh my God, I looked in her face and she didn't smell like alcohol." So she's not on alcohol. She's high.
Try to blow your smoke
She wouldn't
that way.
test her.
I don't think.
So she got a traffic ticket and was sent on her way. Higher than high. I mean, just very disappointing. So not blaming the officers as much as maybe state law that's enabling them to do that, to flip a coin, right? So if we're leaving it up to an individual, what else could go wrong there? It opens the door for us to not apply the law evenly, right? So like, what if the officer shows up and the offender looks like their ex-wife in the case? You know where I'm going with this, right? Or I'm having a bad day because I had a fight with my spouse. Or maybe I'm having a really good day or I'm getting ready to get off work in 10 minutes. Do I really want to start a DUI process? Maybe not. Right? And it leaves the door open to just apply the law unevenly. Bottom line. So that's why these numbers really can't be correct. But even as they are, they're pretty horrifying, right? Those numbers are pretty bad. So lots of collisions, injuries, and deaths, nothing any more than are recorded. So this term BAC stands for blood alcohol concentration. I would know that if I were you. BAC stands for blood alcohol concentration.
That means
collision. What does that mean? So if I, let's say, have one vehicle and then drive home and I'm involved in a collision, what is the DUI?
I didn't hear that part.
So if I have one here, so I'm below 0.08.
Ooh, good question.
And I'm in a collision.
Can I get you to volunteer to show what's going to happen?
Sure.
You can be the police officer. I'll let you be the police officer. So you think I'm an impaired driver? We're going to talk about this exact scenario because this is the thing I was talking about that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
Just to give you in all
you were speaking out of the mic. My apologies. I didn't understand that.
It's me. I came away from the microphone. So if the federal government basically wanted the blood alcohol level to be uniform in all 50 states. So they said basically all 50 states, if you're at 0.08 or above, that will be considered DUI because it used to be just all over the place. And I think they tied it to federal highway funding anyway. They brought them into alignment and said, okay, every state has to adopt this policy. But then the states asked the federal government, well, what do we do if someone is below 0.08, but they are registering something on breathalyzer? So like David said, if you're at a 0.05, what do we do with those people? And the federal government said, we're going to leave that up to the individual states. Wow. Then the individual states, like Georgia, for instance, said, we're going to leave it up to the individual officer. That's what Georgia decided to do. We're going to leave it up to the officer, and that goes into the thing we were just talking about where, we're letting them flip a coin whether they're going to test somebody or whether it's their opinion whether that person's impaired or not. So, let's see what happens there. All right, so David. First scenario, David, you observe, you're a police officer, and you observe me driving down the
Bro, that shotgun is the worst, bro. That shotgun is so annoying.
What you know as a police officer is that could be an indication that I'm an impaired driver, especially given the time of night. We have a lot of impaired drivers on the road that time of night. So you pull me over. What's the first thing you're going to ask me?
The drum gun shotgun
Have you
is
had anything to
honestly ridiculous.
That would be a great question to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you I had one drink.
I'm getting better.
Oh, what?
Wrong.
So, well, it
Yeah, you
depends.
are.
I mean, it depends. I may believe you.
Why might you not believe me?
Well, because you're driving with your license.
That's true. And why else might you not believe me?
Well, I might look at you, and you might look at you. Your speech might be slurred. You might smell of alcohol. I don't know, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah, because you may have some things you observe that indicate that maybe I have had more than one drink. What about the fact that just people lie when they think they're in trouble?
Yeah.
A little bit of truth, but not saying the whole thing.
What if
You think that's funny? No one said it was fake.
And, I said I was the lady who crashed into me ran a lie, and she claimed that she hadn't run the
He's
lie.
just mad because you don't want to trespass.
And the police officer said to me, everybody lies. And I said to him, well, I'm not lying to you.
You want to play dumb little childish game? Look, you're talking a little louder around the library.
everybody may be an exaggeration, but I know a lot of people do. That's just humans when they get in trouble for sure. So what if I'm not lying, but my idea of one drink and your idea of one drink are two different things, but what if my idea of a drink looks like an aquarium with a assembly to it?
If I leave you behind, fuck it, it is what it is. I don't feel sorry
Maybe I
for
had
you not coming on this journey.
iced tea and then
You should feel bad
so I really
for not hopping on it
and I
when you
thought I
have
had it because all
a
of
chance. If your friend, homie, family member
You probably
says
wouldn't want to take my word for the one drink thing. So what kind of things do you have at your disposal to kind of prove definitively? Because if you end up arresting me for DUI, you would need something other than your opinion, if you end up going to court, right? So what kinds of things do you have? Sarah, are you with us, hon?
Well, the first thing I'd do is administer a sobriety test.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Could I pass the sobriety test even if I'm hammered, possibly?
Yeah. No, I mean,
people can. Yeah.
People do it all the time. I've had many people in DUI class say, oh yeah, I was hammered, I passed it. Because it goes back to that physical thing we were talking about. Somebody could have extraordinarily high physical tolerance and they could pass it with flying colors, and they really are truly impaired mentally. It's just the physical side hasn't caught up yet.
So then I could administer a breathalyzer test.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and consent to that, and what happens is I'm going to come in at 0.05, and that's kind of leads back to your question, David, on what happens if I come in at 0.05, so I'm not quite at the 0.08 level where I would get a regular DUI.
Yeah.
So at this point, you have three choices, David. You can arrest me, let me go, or get me a ride. What do you think you'll choose?
Get you a ride.
I'd let you go.
Okay, so what if, just throwing this out here, what if I went around the corner and turns out I am impaired? Because remember, I've had more than half a drink. I've had a whole drink, but I'm not at 0.08. So I'm impaired mentally. What if I go around the corner and I kill someone?
Yeah, well then that's part of the difficulty of being a traffic officer. I mean, the reason I would let you off is because the only thing you've done wrong is that you didn't have your lights on. You are below the legal limit. You did tell me you had one drink, and that's consistent with the results of the breathalyzer. You passed the sobriety test. You passed the sobriety test. You told me that the reason your lights are off is because you started the car in a parking garage and the lights were on and you forgot to turn. The lights in the garage were on, so you didn't need them. It's all plausible. I would let you go.
Okay, and you could, under Georgia state law, you could make that decision to let me go, but there is liability on the part of the officer if you let me go and I did injure someone after that. So just food for thought, mental impairment starts at about half a drink. I already made one mistake that could be indicating it could be that I just forgot to turn my lights on because of that mental impairment. The bottom line is there is liability. It is more possible that I will make a mistake because I'm already kind of past that point of mental impairment. I'm not severely impaired, but I am impaired. So yeah, you could make the decision to let me go. You could get me a ride, but does getting me a ride ensure I won't drive again that night?
No.
No, because I could have two cars, or I could sneak back to my car after you leave, that kind of thing. So again, unfortunately, the only way we have insurance is they won't drive again that night is to the jail. So let's do another scenario. Personally, I would go ahead and arrest them just to get them off the road because they already made one mistake, and that was a minor error, but the next one could be one that kills somebody. So, David, in this next scenario, I'm really drunk. Let's say I've had 5 drinks. So you pull me over because you see I'm all over the road. I can't even maintain my lane. You're like, holy cow, this lady's either got to be in her car or she's really drunk.
Yeah. Okay.
This time you ask me if I've had anything to drink, I'm going to tell you a lie. No, not me.
Okay.
I don't drink and drive. No, I wouldn't do it. You smell a whole lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
So maybe I tell you, it's just I just use some hand sanitizer. That's probably what you're smelling.
Okay.
So, what tools do you have at your disposal?
Well, again,
we'll get to the bottom of this.
Sure, I would subject her to a sobriety test. I would issue. I'm assuming she would fail.
I might need a high physical tolerance.
Bro.
It's possible I could pass it, but when you go to do the breathalyzer on that one, I'm going to say no. Not going to do it.
Then, well, I thought refusing a breathalyzer was an automatic suspension of the license.
It is. And
So,
it's an automatic arrest, probably.
Sorry, what?
It's probably an automatic arrest, too, because obviously if refusing it would get me out of a DUI, wouldn't everybody do it? So
Correct.
at that point, they're just going to slap the cuffs on you, probably.
I would arrest her. No.
And here's the other thing. If you arrested me, going back to the first scenario, and that was kind of the most important thing I meant to say, even though I did the breathalyzer in the first scenario and I came in at 0.05, he could still arrest me for...
Sorry, you're not speaking. Not-
1 minute. 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 1 min
Hello?
Sorry. So the lower tier, that tier where you're registering something but you're not quite at 0.08, if you were to arrest me in that first scenario because I came in at a 0.05 blood alcohol concentration, then you would charge me with DUI less safe. That's kind of like that lower rung DUI. It's still a DUI, but it's indicating that you're in that lesser range instead of that upper range. And it carries pretty much the same punishment because it is still a DUI. But it lets the judge know that you had a smaller amount of alcohol in your system as opposed to, what's a large amount. And that's the thing that most people don't realize when you ask me, if you just have one beer and you go out and drink and you get in an accident, would you be arrested? That's where the coin toss comes in, where the police officer could make that decision whether they want to arrest you or not. They leave it up to the police officer in Georgia if you're in the lower range. So basically, if they do charge you, it would be called DUI less safe. It's still a DUI because Georgia is what they call a zero tolerance state.
Right.
It kind of means the only amount they're going to tolerate is zero. So you could get charged if anything at all shows up on that breathalyzer. You could be charged with DUI. I actually had a police officer in my class that got arrested. He blew a .01. Mouthwash can make you blow a .01.
And
So if you have mouthwash that has alcohol in it, just don't drive.
Is that a lesser charge, or is that still just fully considered a DUI?
Kind of both. It's a lesser DUI charge, and hopefully if you have a judge, they might go a little easier on you, but you're probably still going to get the same to-do list. It is technically still a DUI because you have alcohol in your system. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely good to know. I never knew that.
Wow. Raise your hand if you ever heard of a DUI less safe before today.
say it again, please.
I said raise your hand if you ever heard of that charge, DUI less safe, before today.
Nope. No,
That's the part that I told you most people don't know about. But, I don't like to see people who think, and I was one of those people, I don't drink now, but when I did, I probably did think that if you just had one drink, even if you got pulled over, you'd be okay, but it's not true. And a lot of people, unfortunately, find out the hard way. And, I'm glad they have that charge because technically you are still impaired, but on the other hand, I wish they would make it more clear to people that any amount could get you a DUI. So there are lots and lots of things that affect how alcohol hits us, and we know that drinking on an empty stomach is one of those. And by the way, thank you, David, for being a good sport. So very quickly, let's talk about this implied consent law, and then we'll come back to the impairment chart. Implied consent law, I'm told all 50 states have this now, but basically it says that if you're operating, the minute you operate a vehicle on Georgia's roads, you're kind of making an agreement with the state of Georgia that you'll drive unimpaired, and if somebody in law enforcement thinks you've gone back on that agreement that you're impaired, then they already have your permission to test your blood, breath, or urine. So when I refused the breathalyzer, when David was trying to breathalyze me, there was really no way for him to make me do that because it's just not physically possible to make someone do a breathalyzer if they don't want to do it. That machine's hard to make it work if they're trying to do it, honestly. But you can make somebody do a blood or urine test. So the minute I refused that breathalyzer, when David arrested me, what could happen is he could get a court order, which takes about 5 minutes, to test blood or urine. Because basically he already has my permission to do it, now he just needs the state's permission to do it. So he would then transport me to somewhere where a qualified person would test blood or urine. So it could be like a nurse working back at a police station or, someplace like Grady, anywhere like a hospital. And, even if I'm standing there saying, no, David would be standing there going, go ahead and do it, and they would do it. They don't need my permission again because technically when I drove a car in Georgia, they already have it. Does that make sense? So they can force you to do a blood or urine test. And if I'm not compliant, like if I'm flailing all about, they could put me in a restraint chair and go ahead and get the blood drawn that way because obviously that would be just the safest thing. They're not going to stick you if you're flailing all about. But yeah, they
oh my fucking God.
Because when you drive a car, you're basically saying, I already agreed to have you do that if you think I'm impaired. So a lot of people don't know that they can force you to do that, but they can. Now you know. Alright, so let's go back to this screen. These are the things that increase impairment. So we know that drinking on an empty stomach makes alcohol hit us harder. What about, alright guys, this is a question only for the males. Raise your hand if your male and a female has ever told you you're full of it. If your hand's not up, I know you're not listening. So technically, scientifically, you are more full of it than females. It is water. You have more water than we do. That's what they meant, I'm sure. So you have about 10% more water volume than we have. Yeah, you're full of it. But think about the difference that would make in how a female processes alcohol. It's kind of like we're permanently dehydrated. We know that not being fully hydrated is a factor in how hard alcohol hits you. So there are at least 4 things that I'm aware of going on with just being female that'll make alcohol hit a person harder. So the lesser amount of hydration, the lesser water volume, the hormonal fluctuation. So you can have this amount to drink today and this amount to drink, same amount to drink 2 weeks later. It can hit you really differently because of the huge hormonal fluctuations. Then females actually absorb more of the alcohol than males do. And then the 4th thing is they don't actually make as much of the enzyme that breaks alcohol down, so we don't break it down as easily. So that's a lot going on just from being female. If you're a smaller person, so let's say you go drinking with your friend who's twice your size and you're matching them drink per drink, well, you're going to have a much higher blood alcohol concentration because you have less blood to spread that alcohol out over. So it's going to be more alcohol. If you've ever had drinks at a ski resort, like in Denver, someplace with a high altitude, of course, that'll make it hit you harder. It intensifies the effects. Or if you're sick or tired, you're already not 100% when you started drinking. You're sick or tired, so it's kind of like tired on top of tired. Then, what about mixing it with other drugs? Ooh, that's a biggie. That could be fatal, couldn't it? People mixing alcohol with drugs. One of the things that I'm really glad that they added to the to-do list is a few years ago, you know how they revamped the licensing process? Well, they also revamped the DUI process because it used to be all about punishment. It was spend some time in jail, you have a huge fine, you have some time without a license. That was it. That was the whole list. And they started thinking about that, and they said, what things can we add to the list that would be not necessarily all about punishment, but they do recognize that some people who get a DUI do have alcoholism or addiction. Some don't. Many people are maybe on their way to getting it, they don't have it yet. So how do we know who needs help and who doesn't? Well, one of the things they added to the list was a clinical evaluation where you talk to a person who is qualified to kind of render an opinion on that. And I'm really glad that they added this to the list because it definitely saves lives. I'll give you a great example. The guy in my DUI class that had shared with me that he was mixing alcohol with medication with painkillers, and we know that that's lethal. And he said he had been unconscious for the last 3 days. He just regained consciousness. And I said, buddy, you're lucky you did regain consciousness. You probably almost died, and the next time you may not be that lucky. That really worries me. He stayed after class and was telling me, he said, my PO is getting ready to put me in jail because I haven't done my community service and I've got all these health issues. I said, do you want me to help you? Do you trust me to help you? Because I think I can. I was really worried about this guy. I just couldn't get it out of my head because I think he's not going to be with us very much longer if he's mixing painkillers with alcohol. That's really scary. So I went down and talked to the guy's PO, and the guy's PO was pretty nice. He said, well, I worked with him on, I said, really putting him in jail is not the answer. He's got all this going on, and I really think he needs to get into rehab, because he's not going to be here much longer. He agreed. He said, actually, I already tried to get him into one, but I'll try to get him into a different one. I'll make the effort, and I'm not going to put him in jail. I'll work with him on community service. I've got other opportunities that he can do with his health issues. So I don't really know what happened after that because obviously they don't need to keep me updated. But what I do know is last year I read his obituary. This is what I don't ever want to see. So the fact that they at least are making an effort to kind of figure out who needs help and try to get them help is a step in the right direction. It's really all they can do. So the steps now include, if you get a DUI, most people are supposed to, everyone is supposed to do a clinical evaluation, and if they figure out that you do have a problem with drugs or alcohol, they try to get you help. and it's not supposed to be punishment. It's about saving lives, and it does save a lot of lives. You know, and people just really don't realize how bad things are until a third party, you know, kind of helps them see that, hey buddy, you need to go get some help, right? And so that really makes me glad. That's really all that we can do to help people that need help, I guess. So other things on the list, obviously there's going to be some jail time. So first time DUI or jail time's 24 hours in jail. It could be a little longer. The fine, I would say the range for like Fulton County first time DUI arrest, just to give an example, probably be somewhere between $800 and $1,800 now. That's just for the fine and the court cost. I know, I had the same look on my face. Community service, I would say, usually starts at about 40 hours. I've definitely seen it go up to over 200 for a first-time arrest. It really just depends on the circumstances and the judge. And I'll give you a little hint: if you ever get pulled over, being nasty never helps your case. People can be their own worst enemy. I had a lady in drug court that, oh my goodness, I just wanted to say, just stop talking. Every time you open your mouth, you make things worse for yourself. Stop talking, please. She would go before the judge, and that mouth would start going, and you know it's never good when the judge says, hey, come back here. You know it's not going to go well. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that there's a range, and judges just have a lot of power. You get this end of the scale or that end of the scale. If you mouth off to them, chances are you're getting that end of the scale, right? So some period of time on probation, if you're on reporting probation, it costs about $49 a month, I think. Some period of time without a driver's license. If you're lucky, one thing that will happen is about 10 days after a DUI arrest, there's a thing called an ALS hearing, and it's where you go before a judge, and really they're just trying to determine the dispensation of your driver's license until you go to court for that charge. So it could take probably, I'm guessing right now, about 2 years to go to court for that charge. And in the meantime, you may get granted what they call a limited driving permit. And basically what that does is it allows you to drive to essential places, but that's it. You go to work, school, home, you can get medical treatment, or you go to anything related to the DUI, and that's it. You get caught driving, it's another
What's
ticket.
that old SR22 thing they used to do?
I've heard that term, but I'm not really sure what it means. Is that what it is?
That's ancient time. I just they always used to talk about it. That's just switching.
I've heard that term. Yeah, I'm not.
I thought it was bad because I have no idea what it's. I know it's bad.
I'll look it up. And by the way, I did look at the other two questions you had, David, and that the points stay on your record for 2 years in Georgia. And in terms of going from the intermediate license to the full Class C license, you go online, apparently on the PDS's website, and you pay a fee, and it upgrades you to the next tier. I think you have to fill out a little document online. So that's a good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, the risk reduction program is the DUI class. Has 20 hours. It costs $360. And I know I'm not impartial, but I think that's a great class. It's so much good information in there. It's basically a health class with regard to substances, and it's really information everybody needs. And that's the feedback I get from a lot of people as well. This is good stuff. How come everybody doesn't have to take this class? And I really, truly think it's a shame that they wait till somebody gets a DUI and then they tell them the low risk guidelines for drinking. I don't even know how to address that, but it's better late than never, I guess. So risk reduction class, and then there's the clinical evaluation. That's $110 and up. There is no maximum people can charge, but the minimum is $110. So you meet with an evaluator who has like 4,000 clinical hours before they can even get that license. And basically their job is to render an opinion about whether this person has a problem with drugs or alcohol, and if so, is it mild, moderate, or severe, because that's what determines what level of help or intervention the state imposes. So it could be just extra classes, it could be outpatient treatment or inpatient treatment, whatever they feel is warranted. So bottom line, it's not expensive to do this, right? I would say that on average, I don't think anybody, legal representation for DUI usually starts around $3,000 or $4,000. So you're talking about a super expensive to-do list. Not uncommon at all for it to start around $9,000. The cost for a lot of people. It's a lot of money. So this is a close-up of the interlock device that's installed in the car if that's mandated. We rarely see that on first-time DUI offenses. It's more for repeat offenders typically, but definitely it reduces repeat offenders by an estimated 75%, fatalities by about 7%. I mean, obviously it's going to cut down on some accidents and fatalities. There's really no way to know how many it would have prevented, but I've definitely had people that had that in their vehicle tell me I wish they'd left it in there because they know they have a problem, and when they got it removed, they got another DUI. All right. So if you're wondering, in the chat, sorry. If you're wondering why your auto insurance premiums are so high, this is a partial explanation. It's because of DUI-related accidents and crashes and incidents. So alcohol is a factor in a full 19% of our collision costs. Wow. Jose, can you adjust your camera, hon?
Sure.
Thank you so much. So collisions involving alcohol cost Georgia residents over $3 billion each year, and about 17% of what we pay out for premiums are credited to alcohol-related collisions. Wow, that means we're all picking up the tab for that, and we didn't even do anything. How does that make you feel?
Not good.
I know. So it's kind of like we're all paying for it, and I guess that's how insurance works. Kind of they're spreading that cost out among all the insureds. But I will tell you this to make you feel a little bit better. People who have actually had a DUI incident or accident, they are paying a lot. It really depends on the person and who they're insured with, what happens after they get a DUI. But I will tell you, some companies just automatically cancel your insurance if you have a DUI. And other companies will say, well, we'll give you insurance, but it's going to be really expensive. So they definitely are paying more for that. We are kind of paying for it. All right, we'll take a break and then we'll talk about prescription medications. So how about we come back at 11:50. I know it's getting toward lunchtime, so if you're getting hungry, maybe get a snack. We'll take our lunch break from 1 to 2. So let's come back at 11:50. Thanks, guys.
Huh? Now, if you asked me earlier, could I hear you with my headphones on?
So you
and then you say what you say what you just said, and then I say, huh, and you're gonna go, are you ignoring me?
What? What?
Do you even use your brain?
What are you talking
Do you use
about?
your brain? I'm asking, do you use your
Yes, do
brain?
you?
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do.
Because why would I be ignoring you? Oh, okay. Like, shut up, please. Be quiet. You don't even sound.
I'll tell you to look outside. You didn't hear me that time either?
What the fuck? I saw it, Princess. It's
Okay,
raining.
respond. Like, how do you expect me to know that you can hear me?
Are we Asgard? Are we full? Alright, safe. This game's actually pretty cool. Not you.
Average recently.
I only have 15% left, and this game's easy, bro. It was light work. Not you. Piece of...
How long am I gonna be like this?
If you guys are...
Show us your hands now. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up now. Stand up. Stand up.
That's crazy.
Hello.